Bonnie.
And I'm Caroline.
I'm Kathy.
And I'm Colette.
Well, after hearing Rebecca's story, we had so many questions. In fact, I could have talked with her for such a long time, but we tried to limit ourselves to just the major questions that we thought you, the viewers, would ask if you had the privilege of speaking with Rebecca yourself.
If you haven't listened to part one of Rebecca's story, Traveling the Pacific Crest Trail, then we encourage you to watch that first. But right now, let's listen in to the questions we had for her.
Okay, I have about 200 questions here.
Okay.
Um, I'm captivated. I thought, oh, I'll remember that. Oh, I'll remember. No, I won't. No, I won't. So I
Okay.
started writing and I've written an entire page.
Sounds good.
And are you okay to answer a few questions?
Absolutely. Yep.
Oh, okay. I think maybe in the introduction, I think I said Pacific Coast Trail. I know it's the Crest Trail because I remember thinking how beautiful you'll be right on the coast. And Kirsten said, no, Mom, she's going to be up like sometimes 13,000 feet
Yeah.
elevation. Like sometimes you're at about 100 feet, and another times you're 13,000 feet above elevation. And so goodness only knows where the ocean would be from there. But how long? Wasn't there a time, did I read you maybe, or you were 10 days without, was it without water or without?
Oh, without town stops.
Without town stops.
Stops.
Okay,
Yeah.
you're speaking a really different language from the average person. Like I wrote down a few things. Imposter syndrome, I think I know what that is. Did you say through trail? I'm a through trail hiker.
Oh, a through hiker. Yes. Sorry. I forgot to
Through
define
hiker?
that one. Yeah.
Okay, and chimney spot.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So a through hiker is, some people are very, very, very particular about this is the definition of a through hiker, and no, this is not a through hiker. For most people, a through hiker means you're going to hike a section, or you're going to hike a long enough trail where you need to do a resupply. So a resupply is where you cannot carry all of the food you're going to need for this long hike in your backpack at one time. So you're going to have either a cache. A cache is not C-A-S-H, but C-A-C-H-E, cache. So you're going to either place food somewhere, or you're going to stop in town and pick up food to resupply, to load up again and then continue on. So that is like one definition of a through hiker. Some people will say that a through hiker is only someone who has walked every single step from Mexico to Canada. Like if you skip like 1 mile right here because you got off and then got back on higher up, like you're not a through hiker because you didn't hike every single step. And that can be hotly debated amongst a lot of other hikers. So I am a through hiker in the sense that I hiked the trail that was open and safe. There were like for the first 1,000 miles, I hiked every single step. Like if we got off trail in Mammoth one time, and then when we got back on trail, we actually got on trail a mile ahead of where we thought we were going to get on. So I hiked back that 1 mile and then again that 1 mile because I was going to hike every single step because I've got that stubborn nature to me. So for the first 1,000 miles, I was a purist definition of through hiking every single step. Then I realized if I keep doing this, it's going to kill me. Like, or not kill me, but it's like I am not going to accomplish my actual goal of getting to the terminus. I really want to get to that terminus. I can give you guys a picture of what that terminus looks like. It's this monument that is on the border between Washington and Canada. That means you made it. Like you accomplished your hike. So I skipped anytime there was a fire. Instead of road walking around the fire like some people would do, I would like get a ride in a car around that fire, because Even though my original goal was to hike from Mexico to Canada along the PCT, sounds like semantics, but I had to change the goal to hike the PCT. And if it's not open, I'm not going to hike it. I'm not hiking road. I'm not here to hike highway. And some people are, and kudos to them for hiking all of that. And they call themselves through hikers. And sometimes they say other people are not through hikers. But my feet were killing me. I couldn't hike on road. Like I wouldn't be able to hike the whole way if I had to hike on road. Hiking on lava rock was hard enough. So that's a through hiker. Typically just you're doing resupplies. So it's a long hike, resupplies. Compare that to a section hiker. So sometimes people will section hike part of the PCT. And let's say they're a teacher, so they only have 2 months off. So they'll hike a stretch and then they'll get off trail. And then next year they'll hike another stretch or a section. And they might do some resupplies, but we consider if you're doing part of this is the full trail and you're just doing part, we call that a section hiker. But if you're going to do the full stretch in 1 calendar year, then it's a through hiker.
Good. Thank you. How many pairs of boot? Did you go through 3 pairs?
5. Yeah, 5 pairs of shoes. And so most hikers will wear runners rather than boots, because back in the day when people had very, 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 very heavy backpacks, you kind of needed boots for that support for your feet and ankles. But boots are very heavy. And people in the military say that a pound on your foot is worth 5 on your back. So whatever you're carrying on your foot, that weight equals a lot. So most hikers will wear shoes, and shoes are nice because most hikers will wear shoes with a wide toe box that really let your toes spread out. Because, oh my goodness, can you I don't know if I've hardly ever had blisters on my shakedown hikes. Like I was one of those lucky little twinkle toes people that just didn't deal with blisters. And then on the PCT, did I deal with a lot of blisters? And I had plantar fasciosis, which is kind of like plantar fasciitis, but it was a thickening of that tendon. And then end of Washington and throughout, end of Oregon and throughout Washington, I had a neuroma on my right foot, and that was so painful. So I was dealing, with a lot of foot pain. If I can recommend any tips for people who are thinking of doing the PCT, make sure you are doing a lot of foot exercises before the hike. Strengthen those feet.
Oh, so that to make your feet stronger.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't deal with foot pain before hikes. I in past hikes I'd have back pain or a shoulder pain. So I did. That's the one thing I forgot to mention. I did an exercise program at my gym, and it was a specialized program for hiking. And I didn't have any back pain on the trip. So that exercise program worked. I just didn't ask for them to give me foot exercises because I didn't know. It's never been an issue for me before. So I should have done a lot more. Really should have done foot exercises.
So when you took a day off, when you took a break,
mm-hmm.
would you actually give your feet a break? Would you just go barefoot, or how did you look after your feet? Because I can't imagine thinking my feet are so sore. I have blisters galore, and I have to hike again tomorrow. How did you cope?
Yeah, being stubborn mostly. But also, so on a 0 day, 0 day is a rest day. A 0 day means you hike 0 trail miles, but you still have to get laundry done. You might have to walk to a laundromat. You might have to walk to the grocery store, or enter a restaurant. Let's be real. Hikers want food, and we're going to go to a restaurant at some point when we're in town. So there is some miles that you're walking, they just don't count. So your feet do still have a job to do on those days. I would try to put my feet up whenever possible. I would stack pillows underneath my feet. I would cold soak my feet. We'd get a garbage bin or something and cold soak the feet, or put them in Epsom salts, or massage my feet. I carried a little cork ball to roll my feet out. I I met with, I should have done this earlier, but I met with a lady, Dr. Morgan Bronson, who has her doctorate in physiotherapy, who was very, very helpful with hiker specific needs. And she recommended a gentle orthotic that just felt like it was meant for my foot. Like it made my foot feel a lot better. She gave me some exercises like toe yoga, where you keep your toes down, you keep the main toes down, lift the big toes up, and then you do the reverse. Big toes stay down, the other toes lift up, and you keep flipping. And then, toe scrunches, and then flexing the toes. And I spent 20 minutes twice a day doing exercises. Because walking isn't enough. You have to do exercises to support the walking and warm-ups. So there was a lot that went into keeping me going on trail.
Okay, thank you, Rebecca. Did you say 40-pound backpack?
I didn't weigh it, but when I was my base weight, so base weight is just your gear, no food, no water. My base weight was around 15 pounds. It changed with each section. So in the desert, you carry more dromedary, or like water bags. And then in the Sierra, you've got your ice axe and your microspike. Well, some of the desert, you had that too. So different sections have different items you need, so that base weight fluctuates a little bit. But going up Forester Pass, I had 10 days worth of food. So each day is at least 2.5 pounds. So yeah, it could have been around 40 pounds ish.
And you didn't say very much about bears, but I saw on Facebook you had some pretty exciting bear encounters. I saw videos of you standing back, and I guess other hikers, you were told, run towards the bears and holler at them in your biggest voices, and they will back off eventually. And then I think you cut it off. And we didn't know what happened after that until the next time you came on. And I thought, oh boy, this can't be good. But you were told, now had some trail angels come up with, was it mules or donkeys?
Oh, yeah.
With supplies? Something amazing.
That was I was so touched. So there was a gentleman, his trail name was Sherpa. His son had hiked the PCT years ago, and his son was getting into a pretty bad scrape where him and a few other guys were going up Forster Pass, and it was a high snow year, and the rangers didn't know where they were. They were taking much longer than expected, and the hikers, this guy Sherpa's son, that group was not in a good way. They were so starving hungry. They were licking the packages of food that they had. Some of them did not think that they were going to make it out. So Sherpa hiked up Kearsarge Pass, which is like kind of a lower spot right after Forester, into a valley. And he hiked up with a backpack just full of food, and he was able to find his son and these hikers. And he was able to save their lives and give them lots of food. So, and that made such an impact on him that for years afterwards, he, out of his own pocket, pays for a mule train for these mules to carry up like hundreds of pounds of food. And he'll do that once a year. And I just happened to be going through the same weekend that he was there. And so after going over Forester Pass, my knees were hurting quite a bit. I kind of wanted to rest, but when you only have 10 days of food and you have to get to the next spot, otherwise you're going to be hungry, you have to keep going. But because he had food, I was able to stay and rest for a full day, which was a 0 day, unlike others, because there was no going to the grocery store. There was no running around town. Like I could just rest. Most 0 days are not restful, but that one was very restful. So he came up with a lot of food. And that's where we saw most of the bears, and a concentrated amount of bears. So we're sitting around, we're cooking some of this food that Sherpa and his trail family group had brought up. We're cooking food, and then the bears come smell the food. So then these bears come around and they're trying to circle, they're trying to find a way in, and they're looking for a gap. And they know that in the past, hikers are really scared when they see a bear and they run, and then the bears can just eat the snacks that are left behind. But that teaches bears that humans are a source of food, and that's not good. So the park rangers specifically tell people, if there's bears in the area, you run at them like you're going to eat them. Like, you run at these bears with gusto and chase them away, because it's healthy for bears to be scared of humans. It like, a fed bear is a dead bear.
Whoa. Oh, yeah. Wow. Whoa. Whoa. Third one to deck. Hey, bear! Hey, bear! Hey, bear! Woo! Woo!
Because if they are being a hazard to people, and then they're really big, and then one swipe, and then the bear's going to be put down. So it's very important to keep wildlife safe by keeping them away from human food and being responsible with your food. So yeah, we would run at the bears. I was often too tired. I didn't want to run, but there were people who were very eager to run at the bears. I did run at some of them, but yeah, you run at them, and eventually they leave. I've noticed, I think that the brown bear, they're not grizzlies, so you don't ever run at a grizzly bear unless you're a park ranger and you have a team with you. But don't run at a grizzly. But the bears in California, they're all a black bear breed, but some of them are brown. And I think some people think that they're grizzlies, because I noticed there's a correlation between the brown bears being a whole lot braver than the black bears. The black bears usually just had to say, "Hey, bear," and then they'd book it. They would just take off running. We were having supper one time, and there's a brown bear. I'm like, "Oh, hey, there's a bear." And you say, "Hey, bear, hey, bear," like you're yelling, and the bear's just like, like, "I'm gonna get your food." And then so we had to run at this bear, and you're like, I'm too tired for this. But you have to run at them.
Well, does that kind of question, does that kind of tie in with imposter syndrome? Because are you really feeling that brave, or are you just pretending? Is that what imposter syndrome is? You talked about it before.
Yeah. So imposter syndrome can be something like, let's say, I hear it more often actually in a career. So if someone became a doctor and they're like, I have all these credentials, but I don't really feel like a doctor. Like, I don't feel like people are coming to me advice, and I have to know the answer. Or or whatever career you have. Or as a thru hiker, you're like, I've hiked 1,000 miles, but am I really a thru hiker? Like, I call myself, I'm not a thru hiker yet, but like, we call ourselves thru hikers already. So it kind of feels like imposter syndrome, because you haven't actually done it yet, but you are doing it. You are in the process of doing it. So it's, am I not? Like, yeah. No, the bears I didn't feel very scared with, because like, yeah, just having encountered bears in Canada, it wasn't a new, I'd be more scared with a grizzly or a polar bear. My goodness, I'd be very scared. But having been hiked around grizzlies before, I wasn't too scared with the black bears. It's just, you got to run at it.
Okay, good,
Yeah.
good to know.
Yeah, I did see a mom and two babies. That gave my heart a jump. Two little baby bears. Then I was like, ooh, like, but mom, I just said it was a black bear. I said, "Hey there," and then the black bear booked it, and then I saw the babies, but mom was already gone. So
yes, you don't want to get between a mom and her babies.
Yeah.
Another term, you talked about how dangerous it is when you are on the crust of the snow and you don't know what's down below. And you said post-hole.
Yeah, post-holing.
Tell me what that is. Post-holing.
Yeah, so that's when your leg breaks through the crust. I actually have pictures. We can put some pictures up on the screen. So that's when your leg breaks through the top layer of crust, and then it's basically open underneath. You can break through that crust. You can fall into a river if you're not careful. Underneath, that could be very bad. You can post hole and break through, and there could be a tree waiting that you can stab your leg on a tree. You can post hole onto a rock and just bang your knee really good on a rock. So post holing is a bit scary. So we would start hiking early in the morning while the snow because the snow freezes overnight and then it thaws throughout the day. So we'd try to start hiking early, and then we try to get miles done quicker, because when the snow starts to melt, that's when that top layer is slushy and underneath it's icy, and you can lose your footing a whole lot more easily. And then you can start breaking through the snow. And it takes so long to get anywhere when you're post-holing. Like, it can take you 2, 3, 4 times as long to do the same distance when you're breaking through the snow compared to when you're just walking along the frozen top.
Thank you, Rebecca. That's about a tenth of the questions I have, but I feel like I should let the other girls ask some questions.
Rebecca, when you talked about the post-holing, would that be a situation where snowshoes would help prevent that?
They can prevent it, and they can also make your job 10 times harder. So sometimes, or in the past, when I've worn snowshoes, you can still break through. And then when you pull your foot out with a snowshoe on there, now you've got 20 pounds of wet, sticky snow on top of the snowshoe. And my legs I don't know that they've ever been more sore than hiking with snowshoes on, where you're still post-holing and then pulling up the weight of the snow. So sometimes, yes, snowshoes can really help, especially if there's sun cups. Again, I can give you a picture of what sun cups are. If there's sun cups, it can be really easy to twist an ankle in this uneven footing. Like the sun cups are kind of like, it's an egg carton type. Like it's just up, very rolly. And then if the snowshoe can allow you to walk flat, like you can just walk flat across the sun cups much more easily. So there are some people really do like having snowshoes. Most through hikers don't take snowshoes on the trail, because the trail itself has what we call a boot pack. So people have, as long as you're not the very first one, there's a path of boot prints to follow in. And most of those boot prints wouldn't even fit a snowshoe in it. And then sometimes, okay, I'll give you another picture. Sometimes the boot pack is just perfect where you're in this little trench. And if you fit in it, that's great. But if you're walking on the top, then there's a really steep section that you can slide down on the side. So it's nice walking in your little groove.
Rebecca, I was wondering, I mean, you've talked about the preparation. How long did you have to spend before you went on the trip to prepare for this?
It took me a bit of time to save up some money for the trip, and then it took me maybe about a year to once I got permission to take time off work and I knew I had a job to come back to. Then it was like, okay, this is happening. Like this is really a thing. So then it took about a year to put all the arrangements in place, get rid of my apartment, find a place for my cat to stay, and make all the meals and take the courses that I needed to take. So the bulk of it was done in 1 year. Some people prepare a lot quicker. Like I've heard of people being like, oh, I'm off work 3 weeks. I can get a permit. I'm going to start hiking the trail in 3 weeks. And some people do that. But if you want to send yourself your own food along the trail, you need a little bit more time than a few weeks.
Thank you. Now I do have some F words to ask you about.
Okay.
Could you tell me one of your most frustrating memories?
Frustrating. I think that when you are dealing with a whole bunch of people who are all have very type A personality and have an idea of how their hike should look, getting those people all on the same page can be a little bit difficult sometimes. So maybe one of the more frustrating times was we had made plans as a group to camp at this one spot that's lower down. Recommendations when acclimating to altitude is to climb high but sleep low, because your body recovers better at a lower altitude. So we had made a plan to sleep at a lower altitude, but one of our trail family members kept hiking along ahead, and then we're like, she's like, well, there's no water there, we should go here. And then the group kind of got caught up in the moment and followed her up, and we slept at a higher altitude. One of the girls got really sick and got altitude sickness, had to go back down. So I think that was very frustrating. just not being on the same page, or changing the plan without consulting the whole group.
So it would be more dynamics between people, probably would be.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
How about the funniest? One of your most funniest memories?
Funniest. Just little daily jokes with trail family members, like saying dumb things at the end of the day when you're really tired. Like one trail family member was saying, how many filters do you need to liter, instead of how many liters of water do you need to filter? Or or just sharing stories around the campfire. So there's one story that Sherpa was telling us. He's the gentleman who brought the food on a mule train. So he's telling us a story about a bunch of different hikers. He's telling us a story about how the trail provides. So one hiker was feeling in the desert, was feeling very, very parched and dry. And even though he's drinking water, his lips are just so dry, because once the sun beats down on them, like you get burned on your lips. It's really painful. So he's just like, oh, my lips hurt so bad. And all you can think about is lip chap. He finds some lip chap on the ground. Thank goodness. He is the happiest camper ever. He's putting this lip chap on his lips, and he's super excited. He's like, guys, like the rest of his family are, guys, look what I found. The trail provides. This is my lip chap. And then one of the other hikers was, dude, I was using that for chafe on my butt. Like, that's the lip chap. That's the same lip chap that you found.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
And the last one, what was your most fabulously favorite time? Was it the moment you ended, or was there something special that, kind of took over that memory during the hike?
Ending was pretty special, but I think ending is also, there's a mixture of bittersweet in there too, because it's over. I think that one of my fabulously favorite times also came after one of the hardest times. That was hiking through that lava rock. We did almost 50 miles that day. It was a tougher stretch, walking on. It doesn't make sense. Why would lava rock hurt your feet more than other rocks? I don't know, but it does. Like, lava rock is awful to walk on. So we're going across this stretch at night. We are feeling very, very sleep deprived because we didn't sleep during the day. We had done like 16 miles earlier in the day. We thought we were going to sleep that night. We did laundry, shower, get food, resupply, and then we got to this one section where it's like, if we hike in the day tomorrow, it's going to be definitely triple digits. It's going to be like, people have to get helivac out of there because it's so hot. I was very concerned about how hot it was. And if I didn't want to put myself in a situation where I was going to have to rely on someone else to rescue me, because that's not being very responsible. So I was like, my trail partner is like, this might be the dumbest idea or the best idea, but do you want a night hike? And I was like, yeah, let's do it. Like, let's just go. So we night hiked that one section. It was tough. He's seeing double, and his vision was going funny. And even with a really bright headlamp, I'm stumbling. Like, people would have thought I was drunk. I was stumbling over rocks. Like, even though I can see them, it's just your foot coordination is off or something, because you're tired. And like, it was such a push to get through that section, but the reward for it was amazing. We got to this one, it was Bernie Mountain Guest Ranch. If anybody hikes the PCT, highly recommend it. It was an oasis in the desert. It was that spring in the desert. It was unreal. There was a saltwater pool to swim in. There was air conditioning. There was a bed to sleep in. It was like $50. And we stayed there for a full 0 day. So a full 0 day means 2 nights. Whereas if you stay only one night, it's a Nero, because it's nearly 0 miles. You're still hiking a few miles. So we stayed there for a full 0 day. They made us food, and like as much as you wanted. I had so much. I had waffles and like seconds. It was, yeah, like that. Like, when the reward is so much sweeter after you've really, really worked for it. Like, there's a saying, the harder the climb, the better the view. That that 0 day was so well earned. It was like I appreciated it unlike any other, because yeah, it was it was so miserable. It was the most miserable beforehand, and then it was probably my favorite 0 day.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that beautiful memory with us.
Rebecca, you came home midway for your brother's wedding, didn't
Yeah.
you? How was that then, to be here with your family, living in comfort? Were you about halfway through your hike, and then you were home for, was it a week?
2 weeks actually.
And then how did you feel going back? Or what was it hard to go back? Were you anxious to go back? How did you feel about going back after that little break with your family? Was it a good thing?
It worked out. Again, the trail provides, it worked out for the best. Being Canadian, I'm only allowed 180 days in the States, and I thought it would reset when you come home. And I thought once you come home, then you get 180 days, but it doesn't. It's 180 days in a calendar year. And I had already done a shakedown hike for 2 weeks in the States the January prior to starting the trail. So I really had a limited amount of time to finish this hike. So I went through the desert without taking maybe as many breaks as my body needed. But then going home for my brother's wedding gave me 2 weeks of rest that I wasn't using up States days. I was able to just rest in Canada. My mom was feeding me. It was great. My feet were able to have some rest. I was able to see providers like a physiotherapist and an athletic therapist and a podiatrist and a massage therapist in Canada. When I talked to a lot of people on trail, letting them know that I was going to go home for a bit, they were like, oh, I would never get back on trail if I left. And like, no way would that work. But I think it helped just having mentally prepped, like, this is the way it's going to be, even before I left in the first place. I just knew, like, I'm going to go home for a little bit. I'm going to, like, not really rush, but sort of like push myself through the desert and then get to go home. And it actually, again, the on the mountain of the Lord, it is provided. I went home during a heat wave, so it worked out. So I was so blessed. It worked out so well to go through the desert when it was hot for me, but it wasn't like a record high heat wave, at least. And then so I went home to Canada, and then they had a heat wave, and then I went back. It was still hot, but at least I missed that first bit. I was feeling very apprehensive about, like, my trail family. They can't wait for you. Like, they have their own hike. My trail family got ahead, so I knew I would go back and not have that same trail family, which was okay. Like, I met up with one of those trail family members in Washington, so that was really cool. We were able to have a little reunion and see each other and talk and laugh. But at the time, they're like, I explained how there are some difficulties and there's just some differences of opinion. I was ready to shake things up a little bit. I was ready to change. But I was very apprehensive because everyone says you're not supposed to do the Sierra alone. You are not supposed to go through the Sierra alone. And people do, but it is strongly recommended. They say it's just too dangerous to go do the Sierra alone. So I was going to come back, and then like I really wanted to finish the first 700 miles before going back for the wedding. That was my goal, I have got to do the first 700 miles because I want to get into the Sierra. I don't want to come back after the wedding and have to do more desert. Like, that would be very discouraging to not have checked that one section off the list. So I did have to change a flight, but I was able to change a flight by like 2 days, and I was able to finish the Sierra. And then coming back, it was harder than I expected. So I knew my trail family would be ahead of me, and I was mentally prepared for that. But I didn't realize I would be in a completely different bubble. So a bubble is what we call a group of hikers that are kind of like leapfrogging, and then some people will stay in town for a 0 and some people continue on, and then these people stay in town for 0 and you catch up, and you kind of see the same faces like leapfrogging along, going from town to town. But when I came back from the Sierra, I didn't see one face I recognized. No, I did see one, literally just one. Two faces I recognized. One person was getting off trail, so they were quitting. And I was like, like feeling surrounded by people, and hikers do look out for each other, but feeling at the same time a little bit alone because they have their trail families already. And it was just a little bit like unnerving. So I would get to a stream and I would wait a little bit and somebody would come up behind me, and then I'd cross, would be in eye distance, but it wasn't like a team, like where you're together. So there's the first few days I would hike, just being in proximity to other people, but not being in a group with other people. And then going up Forester Pass, I did meet up with two other guys. One of them I ended up hiking with from the highest point on the trail, Forester Pass, all the way to the lowest point on the trail, Cascade Locks. And we were, he didn't have a trail family because he didn't go to Scout and Frodo's. He's like, it's mostly international hikers, but a lot of people from the States too go to Scout and Frodo's. They meet up with each other, then form, like they recognize each other. They form some friendships at the Trail Angel or at the Shuttle. And then when you get on trail, it's like, oh, hey, I know you, let's hike together, which is how I got my first trail family group. But he got dropped off at the terminus without knowing anybody. And then was kind of, I don't know, cliqued out. Is that the word? Like everybody is in little cliques, and he was kind of on his own. And then he was thinking, like, am I gonna do I do the Sierra? Do I skip it? You're not supposed to do the Sierra by yourself. And he's like, well, I'll at least get to Kearsarge Pass. But then we hiked together, and then we were a good team. We were both very logistically minded, very very much planners. We both prepped our own food. It worked out well to hike with him for a little bit. And it was good that I was not alone. Because the Sierra was tough. It was definitely a challenge. It was a significant ordeal.
When you mentioned it, Rebecca, I remember following your journey and thinking that desert part. Personal question: where did you go to the bathroom?
It's a good question.
It wasn't like there was even a bush or a tree or a big rock. Like, I mean, you have to go to the bath. I don't imagine that you would have to pee a lot because it's just pouring out of you, right? As much water as you're consuming, you're perspiring, you're glistening it away, right?
Yeah.
But you must have had to go to the bathroom. And I just wondered how, where, when, because it was like wide open, just this, scrubby brush. And I would be afraid to step off the trail because it definitely looked like rattlesnake country.
Yeah, there are rattlesnakes. You want to be careful you don't put your hand or feet in any like rock crevice or nice little hidey hole spots for rattlesnakes. There are places to go to the bathroom. You have to be careful, like if you're walking a ridge line and it's really steep here and then really steep here, there's not a lot of options. But you don't typically walk a ridge line the entire day. Usually there's like flatter spots where there's campsites, and where there's campsites, there's flatter spots in that area. And we would do what's called LNT. Really funny thing. I got to look this one up because I don't have this one memorized. Asking about going to the bathroom, Kathy, I have got something funny for you. So with leave no, we follow what's called leave no trace. Leave no trace is a evidence-based way of dealing with human waste that has changed. The science has changed over the years as scientists learn what is the best way to deal with human waste. Back in the day, they thought it was the best thing to poop on a rock and then take another rock and smear that poop and let the sun beat down on the bacteria and kill the bacteria. But then they found, no, that doesn't actually work that well. So then they're like, okay, well, what should we do? Well, there was a time where they said you should poop on the rock and then put it into the water. And they're like, no, that's definitely not what we want to do, because we want to keep the water systems clean and like not contaminate the water. So now Leave No Trace says almost exactly what scripture said thousands of years ago. Go figure. Okay, so this is one verse, Deuteronomy 23. It says 12 to 14a. The verse says, designate a place outside the camp where you can go to relieve yourself. As part of your equipment, have something to dig with, and when you relieve yourself, dig a hole and cover up your excrement. For the Lord your God moves in and about your camp to protect you. Go figure. You are, when you go to relieve yourself, when you have to go to the bathroom, you are supposed to go off trail, at least 60 feet off trail. You're supposed to dig a hole that's at least 6 to 8 inches deep. We all carry a little poop trowel with us. I actually have one right here. Really little lightweight titanium shovel. So you dig. Where's my camera? What's on that side? You dig about a shovel length deep. You squat over the hole, you poop into the hole, and then you shovel over. And the poop trowel never touches the poop. It just digs the dirt, and then you can use a stick or something to push dirt back over top of the hole. You have to poop far away from water sources. There was, when people do not do this properly, you can spread norovirus like crazy on trail, and people get very, very sick with dealing with norovirus. Some people even, again, had to get helicoptered out because they were too sick. You're just losing too much fluids from vomiting and diarrhea. They're not doing well. They have to get back helicoptered out of there if people are not dealing with waste properly. So it is important to go well outside the camp and bury your poop rather than leaving it exposed for flies or for the water runoff you don't want the water runoff to bring it into the water streams. You're actually supposed to stir it like soup. So take a stick, stir it around, get some bacteria from the soil mixed in there, and then leave it there. And you have to pack out the toilet paper. So toilet paper in California does not decompose. It just stays very, very dry. And then the animals dig it up, and then they're like, hey, a toy. And then it's gross. You get these little poopy tumbleweeds that go down the trail. So you really got to pack out the toilet paper and just leave the excrement behind.
Okay. Thank you, I think. But Rebecca, did you say 60 feet off the trail, or 16?
660.
Six
So
zero.
you got to take a number of steps off the trail. Yeah.
So you want to make sure you're at a spot where you can go. Well, and that reminds me, when I said spot, chimney spot.
Oh, a chimney?
A chimney spot or a chimney? Is that what you said earlier?
Yeah. So a chimney is where there's rock like on either side of you and then one wall. Not necessarily 4 walls, but at least like 3 walls of rock around you, and you kind of scoot up through the rock rather than on the outside face of the rock.
I think that our viewers are going to find all of this very fascinating. It's like, to me, it's like a different world. Thank you for sharing so well.
You're welcome. Yeah. I have another funny story to finish off the question about where do you go to the bathroom because there's only little bushes. Sometimes I have another picture of this too. Sometimes you find the most beautiful campsite and it's just serene, and there's a lake and the mountains in the distance and it's beautiful. And then you set up your tent and you curl up at night and you're like, wait a minute, there's no place to go to the bathroom for like a mile or two. You're like, shoot. So if it gets dark, and if it's really dark, hikers are very respectful. Like, if someone notices that somebody else is going to the bathroom, they just turn around and wait. Like, people are polite. They'll wait for you to go to pee, like finish your business. So if it's dark enough and you have to pee like away from your tent a bit, hikers wouldn't really worry about that at all. There was one time though that I woke up in the morning, the sun's already up, And I was like, oh, I gotta go to the bathroom. I really have to go to the bathroom. I have to poop. Like this is and they're like the bushes are all this tall. And if you're gonna poop, like you're like looking at somebody in the face, like eye level while you're going. And that's a little awkward. Which has happened on trail, but it's whatever. Hikers are forgiving. But I was like, I'm going to try to find a better place. So you're hiking for like a couple miles already. And I'm like, I gotta go. So finally I found this one spot that the slope wasn't too steep, because when you have your pants around your ankles or your shorts around your ankles, you're at a little bit of a risk of tumbling down the mountain. So you have to find a slope that's not too steep. So I found a place and I'm like, I'm going, like, this is happening. Like the quote from the movie Bridesmaids, this is happening. Like I have got to go right now. But I saw a rattlesnake right there. So me and the snake made a little arrangement. He's going to stay over there and I'm going to stay over here. And we're just going to each do our own thing because I have to poop now. I was walking around in the bushes trying to find a place to poop. I found this little guy. And it worked out okay. So the snake he was friendly. It's early morning. It's cold. It's chilly. He doesn't want to move much yet. So he stayed over there, and then I did my business over here. It was a lovely view too. Like, once my hands were clean and I was finished, I took a picture because it's what we call a PWAV. PWAV is poo with a view, which hikers like to have. So if you're going to spend some time relieving yourself, might as well do it in a place where you have a good view, because so often you're like hiking, you're putting on the miles, you're going. So if you have a chance to just appreciate the beauty of the nature that you're in while you're pooping is a good time.
But you don't really want a snake in view. But like you said, he didn't mind. Did you say a snake or a stick?
A rattlesnake.
It really.
Yeah, I took a picture of the rattlesnake. Actually, he was a good little snake. We had a great arrangement. He stayed there. I did my business, and it was we were good.
Okay. Good. I don't know if I could with a snake in view, but
I mean, if you got to go bad enough, you can. Yeah. I'd already hiked 2 miles. I wasn't going any further.
Well, and did you say at one point you hiked 50?
Just shy of 50. I think it was 49.4, 49.6 or something. So
because I know that when Kirsten came out to hike with you, she said, I think that you were with a really good, do you call them trail family?
Yeah. Tramily or trail family.
Your trail family, that you were hiking with some really lovely people, and that I think she was there maybe a couple of days or 3 days with you, and you averaged about 15 to 20.
I think we were just doing 15s at that point.
15s at that point, but then you worked, oh my gosh. And she found that a little challenging, and she's in pretty good shape, right?
Yeah, she's training for a marathon at that time, or a relay, I think.
Yeah. Yes, for a relay, that's right. So both of you girls are in excellent condition, really. I just can't imagine hiking 50 miles in one day.
Well, you don't start with 50s for sure. When I started at 10 miles a day. So Kirsten had to start at 15s because that's where we were at the time. And it is different. Like you've got the backpack on, it's hot. There's chafe going on, there's blisters. Like it's a different ball of wax than a lot of people realize. But you work your way up, and it's kind of neat when at one point in time 50 is like impossible, but then when you work your way up to it, it's like, you know what, like your body can actually do that. I found that my body was stronger than my feet though again, but your body, there's always a limiting factor.
Rebecca, you said there's going to be a video for my question of, did you find what you were looking for on the quest? That's what I want to know the most. So
yeah. Blessed am I when my strength is in you, when my heart is set on pilgrimage. And I think it's easy to see PCT being a form of pilgrimage, but it's also more than that. It's more than just going from Mexico to Canada. It's maybe hard to put in words, but it's a pilgrimage that is personal growth and working on healing your heart. And I think that the PCT lends itself to that endeavor quite well. Partly, or a way to explain it is Betsy Ten Boom's words, where she said people can heal through growing flowers. And I think that in nature, in the trees, outdoors, away from overstimulation, it's a good place for healing out here.
Well, Rebecca, I want to thank you for sharing this incredible story with us. We hope that we've asked questions that you might have asked of Rebecca if you were here with her, hearing her story about traveling on the Pacific Crest Trail. However, if we haven't, feel free to write us at recoveringyourvoice@gmail.com. But for the meantime, keep sharing your stories.
Is that working?
Yeah. But you're moving around. Is your laptop on your lap?
Yeah.
Yeah, you called it.
You get this little jiggle going.
It's involuntary.
We're going to put some music on. We'll put music on, Kathy, and watch you really rock and roll. Okay. She is freaking smoking today.
Well, I wasn't sure about the poop question, but I figured if somebody was listening and they saw her pictures where she's going through the desert, I mean, and to go 60 feet off the path and leave no trace, like that in itself is very, well, you know how often I go to the bathroom, Colette? I would be going, 3 times an hour, hiking 12 hours a day. I would have to find 36 secret spots to go pee. Can you imagine?
Are you leaving the poop stuff in?
Oh, yes.
It was my favorite part.
I know, it's because people are viewing, for the Pacific Crest Trail, right? So they want to find out about it, and that's an important question. Then
Overwhelmed with the goodness of God, I think, is a good way to put it. One thing that I only just remembered now that I forgot to put in the presentation was I had been doing this Bible study by Beth Moore before the trip called The Quest, which is very fitting because it's called The Quest. And it was all about orientating yourself to scripture and like these 5 different questions. And one of the questions was, how much more does our Father want to bless us? Like if an earthly father gives you an egg, how much more does our Father want to be good to us? And when climbing that stinking Forester Pass, like it's just going on and on and on and up, and you can't breathe, and it's like forever. It's like, how much more am I gonna have to climb up? And it's like, how much more beauty is there to experience and for God to bless us with? Like it's yeah, it is it's a lot to process. It's easy to it hits you in a very real, very raw way when you are put in a situation like the PCT where scripture just comes really alive. And yeah, it was an experience I'll never forget.